Hello, and welcome to Divorce Happens, the podcast where we educate, inspire, and guide you through divorce and beyond because
Mhm.
divorce happens and then we start fresh. We
Mhm.
are here today with one of my favorite humans on this planet, Miss Lauren DeGolia. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I can. Thanks for having me, Olivia. I'm so tickled to be here. My name is Lauren DeGolia. I call myself your Chief Expansion Officer because I help you move through those really dense, gritty, maybe not so fabulous parts of life and create more expansion in the areas of life where you're needing it.
I love that.
So
Yeah, I love that. So speaking of like expansion, um, and I'm gonna lead with a funny story. So years
do
ago,
it.
when I
Yeah.
first met my ex-husband, one of the first things he gave me as a gift were angel cards. Now, I never used angel
Hmm.
cards at the time. He was
Mhm.
raised in kind of a weird spiritual family. And so I remember at the time, when you first crush on somebody, you're like, everything needs to relate to this relationship, right?
Yes.
So I remember at the time using the angel cards, and the question I would ask over and over was, is this the guy for me? And no joke, Lauren, I would pull the same card every single time, and I still to this day remember the card said, "You will grow and expand." Now I realize
Oh.
it had nothing to do with him. It had
Aha.
absolutely nothing to do with him, but I that so expansion is a huge it's a huge topic with divorce that I feel like we don't talk about because you do expand your soul and your spirit and your mind in so many ways. So I know that one of the ways you work with people when they're going through a divorce is something called RRT. Now, can you explain
Correct.
what this is?
100%. And I will also share with you how it has radically changed my life. So, RRT is a novel um, tool, subconscious reprogramming tool called rapid resolution therapy. It works directly with the subconscious mind using intentionality and essentially like hypnosis type modalities to help you change the way that you think. And before you get too far down a rabbit hole on like what that is, it really creates opportunity for shifts and change in a really meaningful way. And I was led to it because I had a very traumatic experience leaving corporate America about 5 years ago. I found myself having PTSD. I found myself saying the same thing over and over and over to my therapist, not feeling any better and feeling like every week it was just an exacerbation of last week's trauma that was being pulled into this week's conversation. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And so that's when my old coach introduced me to this modality because it changed my life so incredibly much in terms of all of the trauma that I carried from a lot of my parents' divorce. Um, I have learned how to do it, and I have helped hundreds of people, what I like to say, upgrade their thoughts so that they
Mm,
can be more valuable in serving the direction that they want to go.
I love that. Okay, so you are a child of divorce. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Hmm. Not only am I a child of divorce, I am the oldest daughter as
Uh-huh,
well.
uh-huh. Ditto. Yep.
Yeah. So the TLDR of my family's divorce is I have a narcissistic father who ended up like owing the IRS about $500,000 around 1992. We ended up losing everything. My mom had no idea that this was all going down. And essentially, they just decided over the course of a lot of emotional and physical and all the abuses to go their separate ways.
Mm,
It was one of those like really dirty, really nasty kind of situations where I was like, I had a front row seat and was
yeah.
used as a middle person to try and communicate things. Um, Very similar to like a World War III kind of dynamic within
Mhm,
a family
mhm.
home. Yeah,
Yeah.
brutal.
So, I think a lot of people listening to this probably also are children of divorce and now
Yeah.
considering. So we take so much of that with us. So just, kind of like explain to us, if somebody's listening to this and they're considering divorce or maybe they're going through a divorce, how can they not just, ground themselves, but how can they really find that like other side using the work that you do with RRT?
Yeah, that's such a powerful question, Olivia. And I'll just share from my own experience because I've been married for just over 19 years. And to sit here and say that it's all roses and sunshine would be a total fabrication. And it is something that I have considered within my own growth, right? And I'm convinced that a lot of the reasons why people get divorced, just in my, I'm making a generality here, is that you outgrow. You are either
Yeah.
outgrowing or you have outgrown the relationship.
Yeah.
And we have a hard time looking at that in an empathetic way and being like,
Mhm.
hey, I see you, I get you. But as someone who has gone very deeply through a spiritual journey and awakening and all, whatever you want to call it, like there are a million ways, I don't care what you refer to it as, but
Yep.
I got to the other side. And I know now that my expansion requires different levels of my partner and how they show up for me. And I think it's very similar for someone considering divorce or going through a divorce. Hey,
Yeah.
is this valuable for me and my future and what I see? Do I see this person playing a role in influencing what I want for myself, my life,
Mhm.
and likely my kids' lives? And if
Mhm.
the answer continues to be no, and they're not willing to keep coming back and making meaningful change, then you get to make a decision that's going to serve your highest good.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And I think, just to add on to that, I think it's ridiculous to assume that we're not going to grow, right? So many of us met I was 23 when I was a
Uh-huh.
baby, right?
I was 19.
Right, so, right, so that's you're not even fully developed at that point. So it's
No.
actually it's offensive, right, in a way to say like, no, like you shouldn't be growing, right? You shouldn't be expanding or learning. And I think, when you do go through some sort of a spiritual thing, even if it's just the flicker of it, right? If your
Right.
partner can't either respect that or support you, even if they don't
Mhm.
want to change, right? They can still respect and support you. But if they're really not going to do any of those changes, respect, support, then it's time for you to expand on your own. And I think that's
And
hard
that's
for
what
a
I
lot of
had to
people.
do. I literally, it was like that White Snake song, like "Here I Go Again
I
on My
love that
Own,"
song.
where it
Yep.
was like I had to do what was best for me, and it caused a lot of churn in my own marriage. It caused a lot of
Yeah.
friction and a lot of like me questioning, like, am I in the right place? Like, what have I signed up for? What have I settled for? How have I put up with some of this for so long that I didn't even see for
Right.
myself based on my own family of origin? And you know what has been so beautiful, and I know that this is more of a gift than most people get, is I got to the other side and my husband was like, "This made you a better human. Like,
Mm,
you became a better human going through all this, and I'm sorry that I couldn't see you." Because sometimes they don't have the capacity to
yeah.
see you in the way that you need to be seen as you're going through these moments of expansion that literally feel, this is my analogy,
Yep.
of walking naked over a raging river,
Yeah.
backwards in the dark, never knowing when you're gonna get to the other side. And that's
Yeah.
what I was living through.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does RRT play into all of this?
Yeah, so great question. So RRT, again, mindset upgrades. So I need the audience to understand what you think either consciously or subconsciously is running like 100% of how you're feeling every single day. And so when you understand that your supercomputer up there in your big, beautiful noggin is the
Mhm.
thing that's controlling your lived experience, and that you decide that you're like, I'm done living in this box paradigm experience, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
that you have the control to change it. Not because you're going to like stuff some shit down and be like, oh man, like I just got to get through this. Sometimes that is the way. But I really help through the lens of expansion upgrade the thoughts that aren't serving. And 99% of those are everything that's been programmed in the past. So, all the
Mhm.
lived experiences that have created those sensations that you're feeling in your body as the tape recorder plays on repeat, right? Because our minds are always trying to keep us safe. They want us to stay in the circumstance because that circumstance feels
Yeah.
predictable. And if we can create predictability, we can create safety over and over and over, even if the sensation in our body doesn't feel helpful or
Mm.
valuable.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody is listening to this and they're like, I feel so scattered and
Mhm.
small and vulnerable right now, what is a way that you could work with them to kind of get them to the other side of the river?
For sure. The other side of the river. That might be my I help you get to the other side of the river of life. That might
Mm-hmm.
be my new
It's like a
tagline.
Billy Joel thing there.
Yeah, I mean, I seek to understand. So RRT is revolutionary in the sense that we really hone in exactly on what's going on in the moment to the point where I repeat back to you my understanding of your lived experience so that we can get on the same page about what
Yeah.
the future looks like for you. And we can let go of the past in a really intentional way that doesn't feel like you have to relive it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I used to actually say to my clients before I learned RRT, you have to feel it to heal it, and I no longer believe that. And I
Mm,
no longer believe that because I know for a fact that time doesn't heal all wounds. And the reason for that is because the subconscious mind, if it doesn't get upgraded, it's going to hold on to that old trigger and that old paradigm and that old narrative that isn't helpful
yeah.
in the name of keeping you safe. So 10 years could go by and your logical brain could be like, oh, I'm at so much more peace with person
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, or Z. And then you see them and like you want to throw up and you instantly get triggered by what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're like
Right.
pissed before, like, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so
It's
this
not aligning. Yeah, it doesn't
it's not
align.
aligning, right?
Yeah.
Because like your brain doesn't forget. 95% of what's going
Mm,
on in your
mhm,
supercomputer of a brain
mhm.
remembers in its librarian of a file back in,
Yeah,
the cobwebs of like,
yep,
oh, that person did this thing this one time and that's how they made me feel and I won't ever forget that, and it just gets
yeah,
stuck on that loop. So I help you go back and clear that up or begin to, right? Like it's not a silver bullet of a modality, but for me, as someone who has been in therapy legitimately my whole life, because of my parents' divorce and because of all the things, like I see the value of learning how to choose more helpful thoughts
yeah,
and also having someone help you come in, a trusted
right,
advisor of sort,
right.
and upgrade the things that aren't working.
Yeah, I love that. So, that being said, how do you work with people if somebody's listening to this and they're like, "She sounds amazing, I wanna work with her."
Yeah.
What does it look like to work with you?
Yeah, so my preliminary sessions last about 30 to 45 minutes. I call them RRT clearing sessions because it's just about getting that preliminary clearing to happen. For me, because I had so much trauma and I had been in survival mode for so long on so many different levels of my life, it took me a bit to learn how to think differently about my life
Mm,
and what was possible to create in my life. And honestly, like what was possible to let go within my
right.
life, right? Because we are so programmed to live the same experience over and over and over. So I always recommend, if you feel like this is a match, like hop on, let's do 30 to 45 minutes, see what we can get clear, see how you enjoy the
Mhm,
process. Like sometimes
mhm,
it feels a little bit confusing, but 99% of the time, my clients see a shift at the end of the first session. And that's because we use keys that your mind gives us to
yeah.
unlock these parts of your life that haven't been serving you and to move past the block into a way that feels more peaceful and easeful and clear.
I love that so much. So
Mhm.
obviously all your links will be in the show notes. So
Obviously.
before we let you go, Lauren, if somebody is listening to this and they are considering divorce or they're in the throes of divorce, what would be some words of encouragement that you could give to them right now?
Hold the vision that you have for your life.
Mm,
Don't give up. Don't compromise on what you believe way down deep in your soul hole is possible for you. Living in peace and living with clarity and living with intentionality and purpose at the level of feeling like your closest confidant, being your partner,
yeah.
like that might not be a fit. And it's okay that they're not a fit. But what's not okay is to let go of your own sovereignty and your own knowingness in the name of trying to make something work.
Mm, wow, powerful. Rewind that and listen to it a few times for sure. Lauren, it's always a pleasure to get your wise words. Thank you so
I
much for
adore you,
being
my
here.
friend. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.